Rapids. You can view this program throughout the month on Solaris Cable Channel 3, Charter Digital Channel 985, or at RCCA Media anytime on demand.
Hello, I'm Mayor Zach Fruling. Over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of working with a group of 32 local high school students in a newly formed Mayor's Youth Council.
I'm going to call the May 5th meeting of the Finance Property Committee to order. Terry Dolan, Chairperson, Greg Hepp, Secretary, Chad Worrell. I'd like to go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves.
Scott Kellogg, Shane Blazer,
Sue Schill,
Dave Batten,
John Fanta,
Adam Taken,
Everybody else? Sure.
Gus Mancuso,
Linda Sarcy,
Joe Exton,
Randy McCuskey,
Mary Malsky, Lois Canton,
Stephen Ramsey,
Todd Furkey.
Julie Brooks.
Okay, welcome everybody and the viewers at home. Second item on the agenda is a request from John Fanta of the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters for approval for the Rafters to host a Wisconsin Cheese Curd Fest event at Witter Field on August 2nd, 2015. And John, you're here, so tell us what it's about.
Yep, we are proposing to have a variety of different vendors come into Witter Field and sell their cheese curds and kind of have it be a free event for everybody coming to the ballpark. People could purchase cheese curds or just choose to hang out, enjoy the bounce house, a live band, and just kind of some fun events for an afternoon. There would be beer sales as well at the ballpark, but kind of a nice afternoon to kind of, I guess we got some sponsorship from the Milk Marketing Board to kind of do this and get a bunch of local vendors and cheese makers involved and kind of showcase what we have in the area. So I've got kind of a proposed flyer that we would send out, just kind of highlighting what would be going on there, I guess. I'll take a look at that.
Sue, you're on the memorandum. You got any comments there?
No, other than this is their lease provides that they can do so many events that where the proceeds go to nonprofits. So that's kind of mostly what they've been doing, like the movie and other events. So, but the lease does not for any for-profit events that they were going to have. They were going to have to come to finance, and that's why they're here. And then there's a fee that we suggested just to kind of cover utilities and that type of thing, because it's something that's really outside their rental payment. So, and you're in agreement with paying that. So,
Anyone else have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the event, Wisconsin Rapids Rafters for the Cheese Curd Festival at Witter Field on August 2nd, 2015, with an agreement to pay $250 to the city for the event as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is consider recommendation from Statewide Services to deny a claim from Gray Zolnick for damages to his vehicle.
I'm here for that item. I did provide all the older persons with the background materials pertaining to this recommendation from Statewide Services to deny the claim. Is more or less a standard operating procedure from the insurance company. They have determined that the city has no negligence in this matter. The individual still has the opportunity to pursue us in court, but if by the city officially making a motion to deny the claim, it shortens the statute of limitations for that to be done to 6 months.
Pretty standard. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll make a motion to deny the claim for Craig Zolnick as presented. Item 3.
And I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4, consider a recommendation from Statewide Services to deny a claim from Zach Burmick for damages to his vehicle. What's the timing, Mayor?
Yeah, right?
Same situation here. You have been provided with the background information, a copy of the letter from statewide services recommending denial of the claim.
I'll make a motion to deny the claim for Zach Burley for damages as presented.
I will second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5, consider discontinuing membership of the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Adam,
I realize membership has changed on this commission a little bit, or committee, since I brought this forward 2 months ago. But basically, the city has been off and on a member of the Northeast Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. It's about a $10,008 a year membership fee. Really, the intent of the Regional Planning Commission is to provide planning services to smaller communities, rural areas, townships, that type of thing. Since the city redid its the Planning and Economic Development Department and added my position and a potential new position either this year or next year, there's not the need for those services anymore, in my opinion. So I am recommending withdrawing. After the last meeting, it was requested that I contact the other department heads, see if there was any pros or cons from departing, as well as reaching out to Marshfield and the county, which I did. As far as department heads, no one had any strong feelings that we should stay with the commission. One of the department heads I contacted, all they could remember were issues they had with work that was performed, so they were also okay with withdrawing from the commission. I did contact Marshfield. They have not been a member for at least 7 years. At this time, they don't see a value to the membership. So they really see it, again, more towards small communities and rural areas. So I guess they were a little surprised that we're still a member after that conversation. And then finally, I did talk to the county, because if you recall, if the county is a member, then any municipalities or townships within the county don't need to be a member to access the benefits. And the majority of counties within the Regional Planning Commission are the paying members, and then the municipalities receive the benefit. I did talk with their new planning director. It's something on his radar, and he would like to broach to the county board. That's the direction he would see the county going. More so for, again, the smaller communities, not necessarily for our benefit, but that's where they see it going. There's not a hard past date of when they are planning on doing so, or if they even will, but that is something that's in the works there. So I guess after doing that research and talking with the other department heads, my recommendation would still be to withdraw from that commission and save that $10,000 per year.
any questions?
I agree, it should be, it really should be a county participation, and the fact that we were a part of it was because of the grant application at the time, I think you mentioned that
Yeah,
previous meeting, but
Yeah, when was that?
we can join, I think 2 months ago maybe?
Our meeting,
the
but
grant.
how long have we?
Oh, the grant, that was right as I took
2012.
The Ocean Spray expansion.
But then there was an EDA grant after that too, there was one right after that, 2013, which was
We have some of
Also
that expertise
unsuccessful.
now though, right?
unsuccessful.
Well, we had to be a member for,
To do that?
to be.
To access EDA funds.
Right.
Right, and I've been told not to apply for any EDA grants in the future because they're more problem than they're worth.
More work.
I guess it
But
works.
then the money you get.
So we're not looking at any of those in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Great.
I would make a motion to consider discontinuing membership with the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Second that. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Adam. Item 6, consider hiring Supermass as a consultant to complete the Wisconsin Riverbank Green Space and Recreation Preliminary Design Plan at a cost not to exceed $120,000.
Like,
Yes, I get to help out on this one as well.
I was gonna say that was.
Yeah, I did provide an overview and some highlights from the top consultants, but basically we did go out, 8 proposals were proposed. I do have all 8 copies here if guys want to look through any of them. They ranged up widely. I believe the lowest estimate was around 20,000, and then the highest was actually the consultant that was recommended by this review team of right around 120,000. And then the emphasis in the proposals varied greatly as well. Some were more engineering and technical based, and some were more creative landscaping architect based. The proposal that was recommended by the review committee, we felt kind of it was strong in the engineering, but it was also very strong on the creative aspect as well. So we felt there was a greater chance of the designs that would be brought forward by this consultant would be something that would be unique to Wisconsin Rapids and actually create more of a place. So it wouldn't be just another project that would look like 9, 10 others in the area. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into the proposal, but the consultant we did recommend is Supermass. They're out of New York City. If you look through the resume, some of the projects that he has worked on are pretty much world known. Major casino project in Vegas, a project called the High Line in New York City, which was unique because it took an elevated railway that they actually turned into a green space and a path. So it shows a clear knowledge and understanding of a straight, narrow corridor, much like we're going to have in several locations along the river. And we were also impressed by the actual lead consultant. He flew into the city on his own dime, and he had extensively researched it. He located several historical pictures of the city that I've never seen and some of the other people hadn't. He knew the history of the community, he was very excited about it, very passionate. So there was just a lot of things that were positive in our opinion. Not to say the other, we interviewed 3 consultants, all 3 of them could do the work, it's just we felt they were the top candidate.
They also understood the economic development kind of angle that we're working toward on this project, in the sense that the west side Riverbank Trail is very much a trail, and that's it. The east side Riverbank Trail borders a lot of residential properties across the street. It also would span the entire length of the East Riverbank crossing of the Riverview Expressway Bridge for pedestrian activity there, but also the activities surrounding the hospital and the desire for the hospital to create more space for health and wellness and treatment in that regard. And then as you get through the downtown area, the emphasis of the vacant spaces or even the spaces that are underutilized and underdeveloped, that there's a big opportunity by way of attracting more folks to these spaces to create more economic demand as it relates to the spaces surrounding them. So that was kind of the economic pitch. A couple of them got it. I think they all understood it a little bit differently, but we spent 3 hours with each consultant, 2.5 hours, let's say, maybe with each consultant, that we narrowed it down to the top 3 and spent time. We walked here from here to City Hall, down south of the former Elks building, all the way up north to the scenic overlook site at Mead Rapids View Park. Spent time in the spaces for us to listen to them and understand kind of where their head was at in terms of what they imagined for the space. Obviously, it's a design consultant that we're selecting. We're not selecting any specific amenities, but we outlined a number of them in there that we wanted to pay special attention to, namely the Eastside Riverbank Trail, which is probably the largest, most significant piece to all of this. But then also understanding the local economy here. Can't afford New York City, we can't afford some of these other projects where a lot of the consultants have done nationally. So to right size it to Wisconsin Rapids is gonna have to be really an emphasis. And so we made sure that was understood by every consultant that was here and left. We've seen some preliminary price tags on the East Riverbank Trail, and that's not cheap, and that's why we applied for the DNR stewardship grant to assist us in offloading that. But then hopefully recognizing that the timeline will align nicely with the city budget and planning for August, so that way we can consider if there's any room in the city budget to account for any of the improvements. Also, I guess there were a couple of other comments. I don't know, Joe and Scott, you were a part of the interview team.
Yeah, maybe you could talk too about the timeline. It's pretty tight. It's between now and August. So, and I think some of the community members like to know how they can get involved. I mean, to have one of the meetings for public input and have 50 people show up, you're not gonna get much, I mean, just be random. And I think the idea is how could we filter ideas from the public as to what they would like to see. I'm thinking of Veterans Park, what they would like to see downtown. And then, once it's filtered down, maybe a representative from that group of representatives could share with the architect, of the 60 people that showed up, these are some of the concepts or events they would like to see part of that development. And then the architect will take it off. But I guess I'm concerned with how we get people involved in such a short window so they have input. And then to come to a meeting so it's organized. So we may have to talk about that as to how, because it's fast. If you talk about August, so they'll show, I don't know, what are the 5 meetings that they're gonna be developing?
We identified, yeah, go ahead, I guess, if you remember.
If I recall, basically, I think they're looking at up to 5 meetings. The first 2 to 3 would be with the steering committee, which would be set up with municipal officials, regional officials, interested public, that type of thing. The public involvement piece is tricky because it is a short time frame. One of the points we made to many of the consultants asking about public involvement is there have been numerous planning studies done with the downtown area. So a lot of that input has been gathered and it's been incorporated within the downtown plans. So we're not looking to recreate a plan, we're really trying to create a design for the downtown waterfront area. Correct, so we would be relying heavily on what has been done previously. That doesn't mean we can't coordinate something that would try and reach out and try and distill some additional comments. My recommendation would be to not burden the consultant with that work. That would be something that the city would do almost on a parallel track, be meeting with them and then funnel that information through the steering committee to the consultants so that we can keep that aggressive time frame.
Right, because that's precious time for them to show.
Design time,
We have to do, I guess I want you, the grunt work for that meeting.
Sure.
Exactly, we don't want to be paying the high-paid consultants to coordinate and get public input, which we can do local.
And to the question you raised about public input, I think we have to recognize that there's a lot of constituencies and groups, whether it's us as elected representatives or the governing body, the city council. There's also property owners that are directly, affected, whether they're directly affected right next door or across the street. So to the extent that we need to inform those folks, but also get to solicit their input is going to be important. So our hope is, Adam said it, to be able to, once we get the agreement to move forward with a consultant, that we can build that plan internally to bring folks together. The steering committee was somewhat alluded to at the last city council meeting. We talked about the steering committee of maybe 8 members, that one of each of the major philanthropic players, some of the bar and business owner representation in the downtown district, in addition, the city staff or elected officials, it's a city council member or others that would serve on that steering committee. But that will be developed for the May council meeting yet. So.
Talk about the different sections of Riverbank. A lot of the Riverbank is sewn up and has clauses in it till 2020. How is this gonna?
We're not proposing any structures in Veterans Park, but we are proposing structures like in the DNR stewardship in Demetz Park. There's some space there, but I don't want to speak for the land and the covenants, but I think there might be some opportunity to discuss what makes sense. If it's restroom facilities and we need a small public restroom in a place, how do we accomplish that? I think there's some ways to discuss and explore that.
I was thinking, Chad, when you said that, I didn't know about that, but maybe this architect could also give us some ideas about that when after 2020 is up, it's 5 years out. And so it's a flow of ideas down Riverbank rather than chunking it. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that could be part of the understanding. We understand that we can't do it possibly now, but 5 years will go fast. Sure. We would have some ideas at least. So it's something to think about.
The other piece is we want to know costs. We want to know feasibility. We don't know to the extent if we're putting in a restroom facility, we've got some preliminary costs for some of these things, but we don't really have the design and the hard figures for us to go to budget or go to philanthropic players and say, hey, you know, we want a donation for this. We don't have any of that stuff identified today.
That's quite a difference between consultants. If one's 60,000 and one's 120,000. 120 seems like a lot of money. And then you admitted, you said the word if there's money for next year's budget to implement some of these plans and ideas.
Yeah, until we know shared revenue things in the next biennium budget, we won't know until June, July, when the governor signs the budget ultimately, so we don't know what we're getting in state aid. But if we don't have a design on the shelf, how can we ever implement it?
But there's how many plans now on the shelf that was mentioned at the library meeting a couple weeks ago, and there was a few individuals that stood up and said, enough of the plans. Let's dig into some money and start.
That's the
start
design.
doing it.
This is the step. I mean, engineering can sit and design road construction or street reconstruction projects, or they could design park facilities. I think it's probably a higher priority for them to design things that they're skilled and qualified to do. This entity is skilled and qualified to, or any of the consultants really, I guess the top three are most qualified by our estimation, but they're the ones that are gonna be designing and then ultimately discerning a cost for these amenities. I mean, I don't want engineering department to be sitting there designing an east side Riverbank trail that's gonna look like a piece of a street. That's not respectful for the riverbank, it's not respectful for the river or for what could be designed there.
Yeah, on the plan thing, this is not another plan. It's not intended to be another plan. That's why we don't wanna go back through, quite honestly, and go through 6 months of public input and those type of things to rehash what is already in our adopted plans, to take it to that next level. So you have your grand master plan, now this is the actual design of the actual amenities, which then leads to the actual construction and is the budgeting. So it is moving forward. It's not, I do not wanna do another waterfront plan. It's not my goal.
And I would say the people we've interviewed understood that. I mean, they understood, in fact, it actually it hurt to hear the question. The first group that we interviewed actually worked with George Meade intimately on a lot of the landscape architecture around all the mills. And he worked for Schreiber Anderson, who worked on the 1996 plan in Wisconsin Rapids and then worked on the 2009 plan in Wisconsin Rapids. And the question he asked me, what is holding Wisconsin Rapids back? And I thought, holy smokes, that's a pretty big question to hit me square between the eyes. That was a question to ask. And he was right on. What is holding us back? Well, we haven't gotten to the phase where we've actually designed anything to be. We've got a pretty crazy objects on a planning master plan document, but those aren't any representation of anything unless you've done feasibility or any design costs for them. So you're asking the right questions. It's just that when we come to the Finance and Property Committee with the new design of the river railing, we better have a good idea of what we feel comfortable with, and it's consistent and it matches with the city and the entire extent of the space. We don't have any of that today. And that's what this step would help us achieve.
Yes.
Hi. I'm very excited about this because we've needed this for a long time. I mean, I'm a native and, well, anybody else here natives? Yeah. Remember the Sugar Bowl? I mean, how much fun that was down in Veterans Park. And what I want to ask is, this $120,000 that we are going to give to them. Now, this is for a plan that they have that are things that you gave them ideas, or where exactly is their plan per se coming from?
It's a mixture, I think, of both. So to answer the first part of your question, what are we going to get for the 120? I'd look at the interim city engineer to tell us what's the phrase at the step right before construction documents are prepared.
Well, so, like Adam stated, this is really kind of it's not a planning document, it's a preliminary design. So they're going to start to outline more of the details. What's it made out of? What is it going to cost? We gave them some amenity options. Here's some things that we're looking at. These are the sorts of preliminary design items that we want to see in the deliverables, so that it's not a bunch of good ideas that we can hit the ground running and actually have something that we can make decisions off of and move forward with.
And who decided the list of amenities? I think that's what Adam is talking about with the public engagement. So the 2009 waterfront plan and the 1996 water or city vision plan, I don't know what it's called, and then they had the current TIF plan, all identified amenities. So Shane was part of a leadership project that talked about putting in some amenities up in Legion Park, for example. So there's those features. There's also features like the Eastside Riverbank Trail that has been identified in the past plan. Fishing piers, scenic outlooks, all identified in the 2009 waterfront plan. So it's bringing them to life in the sense that we can't construct them today because we haven't designed them. So, or what they're made out of and all those pieces. So that's the exchange. Now, if there's, not to say the door's closed, to Scott's comment about public input and trying to decide what other features do we want to include, while we didn't build a process specifically into the consultant one, because we don't want to pay them to do something we might be able to do ourselves, and that is to get input. So if there's additional features that should be considered, like restroom facilities in Demetz Park, for example, maybe, or I don't know, picnic facilities, those sorts of things, all of which can be identified through this process for the consultant to design.
Because that's a lot for them to be doing, and I've participated in every one of these.
I bet your fingerprints or your name might even be in a couple of them.
But I was just curious what they were giving us for that $120,000. Because I've been through this when we went through it with the cultural center, and we got very little from the architects, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
And so, I know you'll stick on them, but I just wanna, as a little participant in the community, I just wanna say it's wonderful that you care. Thank you, council, for caring, because we need it, we desperately need it.
The other a point I would add to what else we're gonna get, there's some Riverwall sections of the Riverwall that are failing, and I know it's a minor note in all of this, but it's significant, because if the Riverwall were to give way, that was constructed in the 20s or the teens, we'd have a disaster on our hands. So that's also built in the consultant or in the engineering cost, because the design is actually only about $55,000 of this project cost. The other pieces is the engineering work there are no as-built or plans for when the Riverwall was constructed in the 20s. To the extent that we're able to find it, so if they're able to test and measure the integrity of the wall structure, both in the urbanized part of the downtown, which is Veterans Park and Mead Rapids View Park, but there's also the small river wall that runs the extent of the river on both sides. That is very much a small rock wall. We've all seen it, but it's failing in a lot of sections. And so after years of flooding, that wall will continue to fail, and it'll eventually erode, and then we'll lose parts of the riverbank. So that's also a big part of this consultant work here. Adam, what was the dollar figure for the engineering? Was it 40,000?
Between lighting and maritime, it's 40,000. And then one other unique thing that was brought forward by this consultant is they actually are bringing in kind of a third party to audit their estimates, someone who deals with municipalities and actual construction costs to make sure that they're realistic construction costs versus a landscape designer who may not understand the actual costs for municipalities throwing a number out there. So there would be kind of that oversight as well, which is around $8,000.
I'd like to, Tom or Todd, if you guys got any questions, any comments from the council?
Well, I stopped down to see what was talked about in this, and it's a lot of money, but I think if we're gonna do something downtown, it's, we've talked about it, I've been involved the whole length of time. I think on this, that I wish it was cheaper, but probably should spend the money, I think, and move along and get see what can be come up with. I guess, if we don't like what's there, maybe we can modify what, or somehow not, do things.
So we have 48,000 budgeted.
Talked about this earlier today. So we have 48 from the design work for 2015. We also have the scenic overlook monies that were budgeted in 2014 that we didn't spend, that were carried over in the last transfer resolution this last spring, or late last winter, a couple months ago, which were a total of 95,000, Tim? 92,000 in total between the two, right? Between the two.
92 was carried over from the scenic outlook.
Oh, just 92 from the scenic outlook, so we could,
have
between the
whatever was
balance.
budgeted in 2015.
Thank you, okay. So we'd still have some surplus
So we wouldn't
dollars
be
to
looking for
assign.
private partners or anything.
But that question still exists. We put it in there because we've got requests out to some individuals. One group that actually funded a very similar thing in the early '90s, I think, that was never executed. So I mean, there might be some opportunity there, but at this point, I think we wanna secure approval of the financing so we can move forward. And then if we can get other partners to contribute, fantastic.
I don't wanna sway you guys. I'm with Tom. I mean, we gotta start doing something in this downtown.
So just for some clarification, the design and engineering will be one to possibly give you a cost of repairing the riverbank in areas where it is structurally questionable. And then more of the designs, not necessarily just creating paths, but actually piers and other areas of development in the water.
Or in any of the parks that are along there. So Demet's Park, for example, it's a relatively large piece of property. You can do more than run a path through it. Even the East Riverbank area just south of the Elks, there's potential to put something more than just a path in there. The old swimming pool, which is Legion Park, up on the north end of that corridor, again, it's much larger. If you work with the designs that have come up with the leadership group, there's the ability to do more there as well. So it's really trying to see if there's the ability to put these little nodes that may have unique features and or recreational amenities that would kind of tie all together along that entire corridor. So it's not just a bike path.
Okay, then also with the, this was the maximum, 120,000?
Yeah, so if, assuming there was the approval of finance, we would reach out to the consultant and begin negotiations so that there would be a final contract with actual cost and laid out services prior to the council approval in May.
And it'd be pretty hard to establish any type of parameters unless you know basically what you want. Correct.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the whole railing thing. I mean, we didn't really have a good, so we didn't bring it forward, and this will be included in that.
Right. Yeah, and I think it might be helpful for us. We've identified a lot of these amenities that have been discussed in the DNR stewardship grant or just through discussions informally, and it might help within the contract or even just an attachment to the contract so folks can speak intelligently about what are we expecting of the consultant to design us. It's more than just a trail. It's these other improvements. It's the riverbank enhancement or the wall and the water connection and all of that way. Because it is a fairly long laundry list of it. And I guess part of the thing is with the hard thing with all the respondents to the RFP all had a little bit different approach. So there was no apples to apples, dollar for dollar. I mean, the $20,000 one wasn't going to give us $20,000 worth of work. It was pretty clear. So if we're going to select this consultant, we need to get $120,000 worth of work out there. We would anybody, but to this extent that we identify some of these amenities beforehand would be to everybody's benefit.
Will the Park and Rec be involved here after this?
They're not financing any of it, so I don't know, other than for an input, for public, or for an approval process, no.
Well, if you do something in the parks,
Oh.
Oh,
right.
There's 240,000 sitting in their account. to
Potentially
use
for implementation,
For
sure.
implementation, so they will be involved in the future and maybe use some of that.
Well, the DNR stewardship grant is a 50-50 match, so whatever we get from there, we're gonna need to cough up room tax, park and rec outlays available, any general fund dollars that are available, any bonding or debt service we wanna, there's a kind of a creative mix, and then there's also the private philanthropic opportunities to leverage as well. So they're all gonna be on deck for us to actually get from design to construction.
Can I get a motion or any other discussion, Tom?
If this would go through council, how soon do you think you work out an agreement with them?
Quite honestly, the goal is based on the recommendation
With the
here.
timeframe that
Yeah.
Scott brought up before.
Yeah. Our goal would be to have the agreement in place by council so that you guys can see the actual agreement, and if council approves it in May, that we can basically execute the agreement the following day or the following week. Yeah, so that we're starting work on this. June 1st is the projected start date for the actual project. So that gives us the 3 full months, June, July, and August, to actually complete the design. That's the goal. So I can get everything pulled.
I would make a motion to hire Supermass as consultant to complete the Wisconsin Riverbank Green Space and Recreation Preliminary Design Plan at a cost not to exceed $120,000.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks everyone for your input on that. Thanks, Adam. Good. Guys. Item 7. So just so the forefront here, I was told I didn't have to read all the street closures because they're in the agenda, so I'm not going to. A request to suspend the open container ordinance to close the following streets on July 4th from 12 noon to 11 p.m. A through M is listed in your agenda, same as we've always closed for the 4th of July celebration. And then close the following streets beginning at 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the safety zone, A through D.
That's correct. This is just something, business that we do every year to close those streets for the 4th of July and also suspend the open container ordinance for that area also.
I have a question. Should Witter Street be included in the east-west streets?
James?
I guess they always have been. Is there an issue with the closure or?
No, it's not on here.
Oh,
Witter's not on here. So should we make a?
Yeah, we got the street to the north and the south.
Yeah.
yeah, you can,
Make an end,
yeah, you can add to it.
Witter Street? From where, Adam?
From what to what?
Same as the others.
Yep.
It's between Second and Third Street.
Okay.
It's just that it's not on the list.
Yeah, it is another one.
We'll do it.
It should be.
You got that added?
It is now.
Any other discussion? Yeah. See?
I didn't come for that.
You don't have to close Huntington. Okay, anything else? Look for a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the 4th of July dance as presented, A through N, and street closures A through D as presented.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 8, beverage operator license applications. Chad,
All good.
all look good?
Make a motion to approve the applications.
I will second the motion to approve the applications.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do we wanna do 10 before 9, audit the bills?
Either or, 9 would be quick.
We're gonna begin a review
It'll be quick.
of the 2015-2016 liquor, beer, wine license application.
By statute, we're required to begin the review to begin this month beforehand. And usually what I do is just kind of update you on how that process is going. And first time in the years that I've been here, we've actually had everybody renew on time. There's nobody outstanding that we're trying to send letters to or certified mails to. So at this point in the process, everybody who has that's going to renew has renewed. And as the month goes on, we'll make sure to check with the treasurer's office for any outstanding delinquent taxes or anything like that. But we haven't received any. Once in a while, we receive notice from Department of Revenue to hold any liquor license renewal applications for people that are delinquent to their wholesalers, and we haven't received any of those this year either. So we're on track. No problems.
Thanks, Shane. Item 10 is audit of the bills. Kim, anything? Guys, let's look at it. Took a lot of plumbing done.
Where's that?
Something specific, Belgrade?
Fire station number 2. The bathrooms on the second floor started leaking down to the first floor.
Who'd we send to the Chula Vista Resort?
You
The
were
League Insurance Conference was there a couple weeks ago.
You can go to the shoe. It's got plumbing on my leg. That's not me. Guys, anything else?
No, I'm good.
For a motion, accept the audit of the bills.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit of bills.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. For motion to adjourn at 6:42.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Adjourned at 6:42 PM. Thanks everyone for coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank-
Public work.